Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here is your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another conversation in the People in Fundraising weekly nonprofit podcast series. It is Thursday, February 13th, 2025, and I am so excited today to welcome today's guest, Dhruv Sogani, who is joining us from Europe. Good afternoon, Dhruv.
Thank you so much, Tim. Good afternoon. Good morning to you, actually. Yeah, and the name pronunciation was absolutely right.
Okay.
I'm extremely excited to be here.
And you're joining us where specifically, please?
Amsterdam.
Dynamite.
Yeah.
Dynamite. Well, what would you like to tell our audience just about, your title, your employer, the line of business you're in, please?
Absolutely. So currently, I'm the co-founder and COO at AlmaConnect, a company that I run with my friend and founder, whose name is Swapnil. And AlmaConnect actually is an organization that does multiple things within the domain of education as well as nonprofits. We have a news scanning product that helps organizations scan news of their prospects and donors across the world. That's one of our offerings. We also have another product called Data Mine that helps organizations find employment updates, where their people are working. We give them a prospecting directory where they can go and figure out who their alumni are, where they are right now, who have gotten promoted, what city they're living in, and so on, and generate exciting reports which are as updated as they can be. And we also have an alumni networking platform, which is used not just by nonprofits. It's actually, we also have some corporates as our customers because they want to stay connected with their ex-employees, for example.
Oh.
So that's a little bit about the organization. And as a co-founder and somebody who leads operations, I lead everything that is non-tech at the organization. So everything that starting with sales, business operations, customer support and success, finance, HR, all of that falls under me. And then everything product and tech that falls under my other founder.
Wow. That's a lot on your plate.
But yeah, it's all linked together. But yeah, I like it.
So thank you for sharing that. I got two follow-up questions. So first of all, where can people find more information about AlmaConnect?
Sure. On almaconnect.com.
Okay.
That's our main website. But of course, we have certain additional videos on YouTube where you can find us, and some of the other sessions that we have done and posted on LinkedIn and so on. But yeah, major sources, almaconnect.com.
Terrific. Thank you. And how long ago did you co-found AlmaConnect, please?
So the journey has been interesting. So 6 years ago, to simplify the answer, in 2019.
Okay.
But AlmaConnect was founded a few years before that by Swapnil.
Okay.
It had a direction, but then I joined hands with him as a co-founder in 2019, and then we added a few more things and pivoted a little, and we've been doing those things from then on, from 2019 till now.
Terrific. Thank you. I'm excited to hear this as well. So thank you for telling us, when AlmaConnect was founded. If you could spend a few minutes, Dhruv, and just explain how you entered this educational fundraising landscape, please.
Yeah, certainly. So as I was saying, my journey has been a little different from maybe the listeners or maybe the other guests that you've had before, because I come from an entrepreneurship background.
Yeah.
I've not in fundraising or not even in nonprofits or educational institutions before. But straight after my university, let me take a step back.
Yeah.
So I was born in India and was raised in a very pretty city, which actually is right here, the background.
Oh, cool.
The city is called Jaipur.
Okay.
It's called the Pink City and it's in a state called Rajasthan, which is an extremely touristy place. So a lot of people across the world flock into this state to see forts, palaces, deserts, and
Mm.
a lot of kingly history of India.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I grew up. That's where my parents still are.
Oh,
And I studied also in a university. I did mechanical engineering actually,
oh, wow.
uh, in a university close to my hometown,
Okay.
right, in the same state. And from there, I ventured into a direction where I worked with BMW actually in Germany,
Hmm.
in their headquarters in Munich for some time because cars were something that I was really passionate about. So that's why I pursued mechanical engineering. So I did that for a while. But then my stint with both the automotive world as well as the corporate world was very short-lived,
Okay.
uh, probably just 1 year, and I'm talking about 2011 here, right, straight after college.
Yeah.
And then I just hopped onto the world of entrepreneurship. I joined hands with another friend of mine who studied with me in both in my high school as well as in my university,
Oh, cool.
and we created a technology product which was in the media industry.
Okay.
So it's very interesting. I want to share that with you because it's something which is still relevant, I feel,
Mm.
especially now in the advent of many AI bots and robots that will come
Oh,
and
yeah.
access the space of internet. So what we did was we created a CAPTCHA advertising product.
Mm.
Whenever you log into a website and you forget your password, you're thrown these random characters,
Oh,
like which
yeah.
to fill in A, B, C, D, 1, 2, X. You have to write something uh, from the image, or you have to solve a puzzle that how many buses are there in this picture and so on.
Right. Yes.
We created a product that would replace this and show an ad, and the user has to write something based on that ad essentially.
Oh, okay.
So for example, let's say so that was one of our first advertisers who we partnered with. Let's say Star World is launching a new show tonight
Mm.
and they want to advertise about it from the last 1 month, for example.
Yeah.
So they would come to us and say, we want to show everybody that this is the name of the new show.
Mm.
And they have to read that from the image on the top and write that down instead of those random characters. They have to write something which makes more sense. So the question will be, what's the new show that Star World is launching?
Okay.
And then they would write that in the ad and they would proceed. So
Oh.
that was the first product that we launched as young college graduates. So we did that for around 2.5 years. We sold that product to a German media company,
Mm.
worked with them for another year and a half. Then I switched into a different industry. I was working in the hotel ERP space. So it was
Oh,
another B2B software product that hotels around the world use and they
okay.
still use. This I was working with my cousin brother who's sort of running this show,
Mm.
and I did that for 4 years. And by that time, my friend Swapnil had already launched this company, and it was active in India, where we were selling this alumni networking platform. So
Okay.
imagine us to be like Facebook, but very specific to a university or a college or an institution,
Sure.
that they would have their alumni come together, sign up on this platform, and interact with each other.
Okay.
So that's how it started, and
Yeah.
he had started it. And by the time I joined, we were launching additional things. We were doing some things where we would help corporates find jobs for our users because we had users from all the top tier institutions in the country. We had all the top engineering colleges, MBA colleges that are still our
Wow.
customers, actually.
Okay.
So we had those people so we could get them jobs through corporate. So we did that.
Mm.
And to increase interaction and content on the alumni networking platform, we had a module which would continuously bring in news about alumni. So if
Oh, cool.
somebody gets sort of an award, or maybe someone raised $1 million for their startup, we would pull that information
Mm.
and push that as a content piece for people to engage on.
Okay.
And that really hit off because all fellow college students, like let's say if I graduated in 2010, I'm always interested to know that if my fellow batchmates have done something interesting.
Yes, sure.
So we would find that out and push that information, and that would increase engagement on the platform.
Okay.
So we were doing that, and then a eureka moment sort of happened. We realized that, hey, this can be an independent product if we launch it and if we really deep dive into this tool. And that's what we really did. We
Okay.
started uh, in sort of putting more energies on this. We realized that there is a huge market and scope within the Western ecosystem,
Sure.
and where people research on their prospects, research on their alumni, and that's how I entered fundraising essentially. So which has almost been 3.5, 4 years now for
Mm.
this product. But
Yeah.
it was an extension of our alumni networking platform where news was a module, and uh, and then we launched it as a separate product, and that's our core flagship product now.
Okay. Dynamite. What a diverse and interesting career you've had.
Okay. So I would say I've always been, as I mentioned, in different kinds of startups. So
Yeah,
been a very sort of high and low kind of journeys.
sure.
Um, I would say so. The current one probably is the most exciting one I would right now,
Oh,
and I've
yeah,
been
tell me
in
why.
this. Um, you know what? I've always been a person who sort of I like two things a lot. I like people
Uh-huh.
and I like impact.
Mm,
Those are two things which have always been close to my heart.
sure.
And I've always been a person who used to network a lot, who used to always be present whenever there was something happening, whether it was my university or whether it was my other kind of work that I was doing earlier. And when AlmaConnect was getting created, those two things were coming together. I mean, initially it was just people because we had launched a network which would allow people to engage with each other. So that was very exciting.
Sure.
Um, and then we were able to marry it with impact,
Mm,
because as soon as we launched the alumni news product, we realized that, hey, we are able to really assist fundraisers, prospect researchers, people in the development domain, with alerts, with information, essentially, not just alerts, with information on the people who matter to them, on
yeah,
the people who they are interested to and very keen to research on. And once we get that information to them, there is an impact that they're able to create, because with that information, they're able to utilize it, build a relationship with a new prospect that they discovered through us,
definitely.
or engage with somebody who they'd spoken probably 2 years ago, and there is a new element of information that they found through us.
Yeah,
And then eventually that would bottle down to them raising funds, or them just having better relationship with their alumni pool or prospects, or donors, or everybody. So
yeah.
so when I think of this, I'm always excited. I'm still very excited because I'm still able to do these two things together and continue to build more on this essentially.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'd like to just share my screen really quickly because
sure.
you made a good point there about how you like to meet people.
Yeah.
And so I found this photograph on LinkedIn. And this is
Yeah,
when you and I met at the uh, donor search happy hour
right,
at the annual prospect development conference for
right.
Alpha in Seattle. So
So much fun.
it was a great time. Yes.
Yeah,
And like you're totally right. Like you are very comfortable talking to lots of different people and very sincere and friendly. And I think we hit it off really well right from the get-go. Um, Talked about a wide variety of topics. And so there's you, me, and Amy Doherty, who I know from my time and her time at Harvard. Um,
yeah.
and so you guys are drinking, and I've got chocolate milk, which Amy
Yeah,
Track it
that's the
down for
funniest
me.
element. So yeah. Yeah, that was a great conversation starter, by the way. I mean, look at us, a beer
Yeah.
in hand, a wine in her hand, and then we have a hot chocolate.
Yes. Yeah. So fun. Such a good time.
Yeah, that got me talking and asking you that. Okay, and then we ventured into your background. We talked about Utah State. We talked about Mormon Church. We talked about so many things which was new to me, and it was interesting to learn about all of them.
Yeah. Same. Same. And I think we make it into that conversation at the last question here. I think there may be some tie-in to it.
Sure,
Um,
sure. I
yeah.
also want to
Yeah.
add something about, when you said what's exciting about being here.
Yeah.
Um, we've had some examples where customers have come back to us and said that, hey, we actually, in fact, Amy herself, you just talked about her,
Oh.
and she, Harvard Business School happens to be our customer. And she said that there have been some new people that they found through us who were not in their radar.
Mm,
And there are people who have multi-millions in as a capacity rating that they were able to give through the information that we shared. So that by itself was something which is so exciting to hear.
sure.
So we get so much satisfaction actually when we hear such statements that there is something that we created, and we were able to sort of offer it to the fundraising community. We were able to create this tool, some technology that involves a lot of interesting thoughts and interesting sort of uh, technological advancements, let me put it that way. But the use case is so straightforward and simple. Like we are
Yeah.
doing so much at the back end, and then the output is simply straightforward for them to get get some information which can be utilized in so many different manners. So that was one example which was very satisfying for us. And similarly, on a different note, which was more humbling, I would say, but still information which is important. So a customer told us that, hey, we got to know about an obituary through you guys, about one of our major donors, which unfortunately we would not have known otherwise. So you
Oh,
informed
wow.
us the next day. And because of that, we were able to send our condolences. We were able to speak to the kin and relatives of
Yeah.
that major donor. And that also is so important. I mean,
Yes.
people are always talking about accomplishments and achievements. Of course, it's exciting to congratulate people when something's happened, but it's also, or probably more important, to share or to speak to somebody in their times of sorrows. And
Totally.
that's also something that a tool like ours is able to give and deliver. It's weird to say, but yeah, that's also true. This is also information which is important for a lot of people in the community.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just speaks to the breadth of what you can offer and the impact it can have for your clients and the people they're engaging with.
Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm
Sure.
just curious, Dhruv, you meet with clients and prospective clients around the world. Um, I wonder, in the course of your conversations and travels, do you see fundraising practices in one area or one country that you then walk away thinking, I know that's not being implemented here. Let me see if that might work. Um, and of course, countries have their own privacy laws and things like
Yeah,
that. So within reason, anything come to mind about that?
let me pick you up on that, the privacy law. And
Yeah.
there's two, three things that come to my mind instantly on this. Because of that privacy law thing, specifically in markets like the UK, Canada, where we have our customers. But because of that, we actually launched a new product called Data Mine
Hmm.
because of these issues. Let me not say them as issues, just compliances internally. But based
Sure.
on that, they were actually not able to first store data on their alumni so easily.
Yeah.
And because they were not storing that data, they were also not able to share their data with us. in order for us to find news on these people, right? So, for example, if I have to find news on, let's say, alumni that went to Weber State University,
Yeah.
we would request you to share that data or share data of your major donors with us if you would like to track them in the news, right?
Right.
But if the prerequisite is not there, that they can't share the data, what do we do?
Right.
So then we launched this new product, which was an outcome of these discussions that, hey, you don't share your data. We will find out who your alumni are.
Mm,
How do we do that? Through social media, through LinkedIn, of course.
yeah.
We are able to find that who's who self-reports that they went to XYZ university. And
Yeah.
we pick that data. And then based on that, we are also able to constantly update that data that, hey, who's now gotten promoted, who's changed their jobs, who's moved different cities. And then since we have that data ourselves, we can then also find you news on that and then keep
Right.
sending that information to you. So that was one which was actually based out of this limitation, I would say,
Okay.
right?
That's good.
But also, um, one thing which is very interesting to note, and culturally, I have very good experiences of three specific different kinds of cultures. I grew up in India.
Yeah.
I've been living in Amsterdam for a few years, and my major business is in the US and Canada.
Right.
So I can say something that how big is fundraising and endowment in the US?
Mm,
It is actually not talked about at all, specifically in the educational institutions in Europe.
yes. Yeah.
Because the culture here is that, hey, we studied at ABC University. People, first of all, don't brag about their universities. I mean, brag is an overstatement. People don't really associate a lot with their education institution. There's like, okay,
Yeah.
fine, this was a course which was being offered at this institution.
Yeah.
We went there, we studied, and it's done. If I
Yes.
ask them, hey, do you give back to that community? They're like, why? I mean,
Right.
because I paid my taxes and the
Yes.
tax allowed me to study in that university. So you would imagine me sitting in Amsterdam, running this business and have no customer in Amsterdam.
Right. Right.
So that's a very different cultural game difference. On the other side, India, which has both private and public institutions, is still not very big in fundraising.
Mm,
And now that is what we are trying to sort of gather from the US, that whatever we are learning, and we are trying to implement that in certain institutions in India where the institutions want to have an endowment fund. So it's really now starting off. So they now want to set those endowment funds. They want to have a board of trustees, which didn't
oh,
exist. So it's really like step one for them right now. So we
sure.
are learning certain things here and we are putting that there. Again, culturally, it is very different.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of donations and giving back that happens in faith-based communities, but not with academic institutions.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, which I would then, as if people are listening to this, whoever is listening to this, then if they're doing international sort of prospect research or international fundraising, especially in the Asian markets, I would recommend that people really want to know the cause.
Okay.
Like if they're working, let's say, um, in the financial world or in climate change within India,
Yeah.
then they would want to know that, okay, if my money is going to something which I'm working on, and my name is also being recognized, then that is something I can think of and give back,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
but otherwise not. So
Okay.
there are these very interesting cultural differences and the
Sure.
upbringing that then defines how and when and to whom people donate, and what's the process in there. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I have a follow-up question. Given you mentioned, your Indian upbringing, living in Europe, and most of your businesses in the United States, I'm assuming, and I shouldn't assume, are you multilingual?
Ah, Very limited, unfortunately. I
Okay.
mean, I of course speak my mother tongue, which is Hindi.
Yeah.
I speak one of my native language from my own state a little bit. I
Okay.
understand that a lot, but I
Yeah.
speak that. That's called Marwadi.
Okay.
And then I speak a little bit of German because I was
Yeah.
living there earlier. And very limited Dutch because here in the Netherlands, everybody speaks English.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's so yeah,
Yeah.
and English, of course. So not so much as I would have liked to,
Yeah.
but I hope to sort of yeah improve on that.
Yeah, and the reason why I ask is you mentioned like, understanding the cultural differences, nuances, sensitivities. So for you, to try to help perhaps the Indian nonprofit space adopt some of the Western academic practices to be able to converse in Hindi as opposed to English may be a benefit to people that you are talking to on the ground in India, for example.
Yes and no. So you'll be
Oh, okay.
surprised to know most of our education, actually, especially in private institutions, happens in English.
Okay.
Because within the country also there are so many different languages that are spoken
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true.
that one common theme, one common language usually is English. Of course, Hindi is also a very widely spoken language within the country, but then in south of India there are different languages in each state.
Yeah.
So yeah, coming back to your question, it is helpful
Yeah.
because it does provide some more context. It does provide some commonality and yeah, ease of conversation. But if they are now to create those uh, sort of documents and things as stepping stones for them to establish a fundraising practice, most of it would be done in English.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
This has been just a great conversation so far, Dhruv. I want to get to this
Same here.
last question, and we touched on it a little bit when I shared the photo of you and me at APRA. And as you mentioned, when we talked in Seattle, we covered a wide range of topics. Our upbringings, our family, our the faith that we grew up with, and your faith upbringing was in Baha'i, was it?
No, it
Was
was a combination of Hinduism and Jainism.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
Jainism, yes. So yeah, like I talked to you about my, Mormon church ties, and you talked about Jainism and the values that it's given you. And so that conversation was so enjoyable and it made me think of this quote. And I'd like just to hear what you think about um, what the social scientist and writer Arthur Brooks calls a balanced portfolio of life. And so he wrote that, quote, the happiest people, according to the best studies, have a balanced portfolio between four
Right.
things: the transcendental, which is to say the spiritual things bigger than yourself, your
Hmm.
family, your community, so third, which is your service and friendships, and then earning success through meaningful work that creates value. So thinking about your life, your career, um, what about that balance of those four most important aspects ring true to you? And maybe if things are out of balance, how do you try to bring them back into some semblance of order?
Yeah, heavy question. Uh, yes, of course. To answer in a nutshell, I do transcribe to that mindset,
Yeah.
and it holds a lot of importance in my life. Um, and it has actually grown, of course, as I in my upbringing, yes, I was also raised a lot. It was not just my parents, it was also my grandparents who were there. So
Oh,
so
okay.
there it had a big influence in my life.
Yeah.
And especially my grandfather, who other people within our own community and our society would call him a living saint.
Oh, wow.
He passed away at the age of 99
Oh,
and probably visited the hospital only once from between his 70 and 99 years of age in 30 years.
wow. Wow.
And the reason behind that was purely balance,
Okay.
simply balance,
Yeah.
and balancing everything around him.
Mm.
He would continue to eat everything that he liked till the end,
Okay.
but in limited proportions,
Yeah.
right? He would continue to practice things that he enjoyed, like he would play bridge, which is a game of cards,
Yeah.
and he would play that till the very end almost
Mm.
every other day for a few
Oh,
hours, but then not overdo it also.
sure.
So that was something that I grew up seeing in my everyday life. I tried to do that a little, but as a child, as a teenager, I would of course flip and have
Sure.
my own, things that I really wanted to do, and would go out and try and do those things and sort of not be balanced in certain things,
Right.
which I'm only able to realize now in hindsight that
Yes.
I did that.
Yes.
Uh, so that has been a very big influence. The other very big influence has been my partner, my wife,
Mm.
because she has also been, first of all, she's been a person who studied different things. She studied engineering, but then journalism,
Oh,
then development studies, and she's been in the world of development from the last decade. So she was working in a child rights organization in India,
okay.
uh, along with a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Wow.
So that was very humbling, and I would see them, and I would see this figure who she was working with, again a saint, like very balanced, very suave, but
Mm.
very gentle, and they would do amazing things, but he would still not brag about any of that.
Sure.
Um, and then again, she's been continuing to. I mean, she was the one who brought us to Amsterdam. She got a job in climate change. That's how we moved
Oh,
here. So
okay.
she's working in the climate change domain. And she brings a lot of this into me because for her, it's like, hey, we have one life which we need to be balanced. And then when we if we're able to impact other people's lives in any way,
Yeah.
then that gives a very gratifying thing to us,
Sure.
which will continue to make us more humbled and balanced. Like we would, of course, try and achieve so many things, but then we would see the other things, other people around, we would see the community. If we are able to help others, then we know that, hey, that is something which is extremely important and
Yes.
um, would make us more humble and more balanced in that sense. So
Yeah.
those are two, core influences that I've had. One other thing that I would like to quote for sure, which goes back to the religion more so.
Mhm.
There is a word that I would want. There are two words actually I would want people who would listen to this to go back and read up. It will be very interesting actually.
Sure.
One is samatvam,
Okay.
it's spelled as SAMATVAM, which actually means balance
Oh, okay.
uh, in Sanskrit/Hindi.
Okay.
And this has been talked about in the holy book, which is called the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, which is the holy book of Hinduism.
Yes.
And it talks a lot about this, and then it relates it to karma yoga.
Mm.
So karma and yoga, these are two words that have actually become very international.
Yes.
Now, it's no longer limited to the Indian community. So karma means work,
Mhm.
whatever work that you're doing, your workplace or work. And yoga means, of course, yoga means a lot of things, but it essentially means what we started talking about. It means that um, it's an approach to life. It's a
Yeah.
balanced approach to life. Like
Yeah.
you have your work plus your community plus and your community is your family, your friends. Uh, you have your um, other passions and desires, but how do
Sure.
you sort of bring all of them together and
Yeah.
focus on the karma yoga? by understanding your own priorities and just balancing them out, being disciplined while you're doing this.
Totally. Yeah.
That is what it teaches essentially. So these are, when you read a little bit more about Karma Yoga, then you understand, okay, I've come here for work, and if I do that well, then those deeds will help me to become better in this life and then in my afterlife also.
Yeah.
But then, doing better means, of course, be doing it also in a more disciplined and balanced manner. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. So I so appreciate you talking about your grandfather and your partner, your wife, and how they have influenced your life in very meaningful ways. And yet, for your grandfather to give you that example of he did everything he liked to do. He ate what he wanted to, but it was very disciplined. And that the tremendous health benefits and great example that he was,
yeah.
to do that. That's awesome.
So yeah, so I've been fortunate to have them in my life and
Yeah.
spend so much time with them.
Yeah. That's beautifully said. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, Dhruv, this has been such an enjoyable conversation. It feels like it went by like in 10 minutes. I wish we could talk for much longer, but in Baltimore, let's plan for that. I really hope to see you there.
Absolutely. We must.
Yeah.
We can go on, I know.
But I wish you and your family good health and happy moments together, and look forward to seeing you in a few months in person again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. And thanks a lot for these amazing questions that you asked. It allowed me to also um, come up with certain things that I wanted to share with you and share with people who would listen to this. So yeah, it's been nice. Thank
Yes,
you.
my pleasure. I'm honored to have you on today.
Thank you, Tim. Take care.
Yes. And for our audience, you can find Dhruv's conversation on various platforms in March, so in a few weeks from now, on LinkedIn, which will include the link to this full conversation on YouTube, then on Podbean and Spotify for people that just want to listen to the conversation. And then thanks to Luis Diaz, who was my 100th guest on People in Fundraising. Lewis and his company, the Donor Participation Project, are sponsoring my new website where you can find Dhruv's conversation in March, and that is peopleinfundraising.wordifysites.com. So thank you to our audience for watching, listening, supporting this program, and I'm very excited, Dhruv, to share your conversation with our networks.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you.
Have a
Have
good
a
one.
good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.